earlier in the season against Penrith, Luai played some of his best football. Can him, Api Coruscant, Taruva, the guys that were heavily involved in this little scuffle that they had at Tigers training, can they step up for their team and grab a victory here? I think they might be able to. Let's go the Tigers, 1-12. Mustn't let power go to my head. What's up, guys? Burgz back again for another week of tips and predictions here on the Casual Athlete. This week, it is the magical round 23, and we have Indigenous round this weekend. But what a week round 22 was. A lot of upsets getting up across the board. We've had slides up and down the ladder. It's been a huge week of football, and I can't wait to get into my tips from last week with you guys in just a moment. But before we do that, guys, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week, and we can't do it without your support. So hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Now, guys, let's get into the tips from last week. And we had a pretty good week. 6 out of 8 tips correct. And we started off with the Storm on Thursday night, getting a narrow win against the Eels, who have been impressive over the last month of football. And I did think that would be a close game, and no doubt was. I think the Storm got away with murder on Thursday night. Not in terms of a decisions kind of point of view, but they were missing a pretty big piece of their attack in Jerome Hughes, and they managed to get the job done. The Warriors getting the loss, that one hurts on the bell, but the Warriors have done that to a number of teams over this season. They managed to hold on for victories by very close margins. This time they just couldn't do it, and credit to the Dolphins, man. Herbie Farnworth going down out of this game, I really didn't give him much hope from that point on, and it does look a little bit bleak heading into the next few rounds of this season, but yeah, credit to them for getting the win on this occasion. The Broncos getting the win 13+, and then the most controversial game of the round, where the Panthers led 24-0 against the Titans at halftime. And from that point on, it was all Titans. They probably deserved to come back and win this game. Had it not been for a couple of calls that definitely changed the game in not the Titans' favour, let's be completely honest. The Sammy concussion as well. I think you have to give that a penalty try. Even though they scored off the back of it, it's just unacceptable play from Brian To'o. He basically concussed Phillip Sami, and then later on in the game, he had another head knock, which didn't take too much to take him out of it. I feel bad for the Titans on this occasion. And the trainer running in front of Jaden Campbell, I don't think I've seen that in 25 years of watching rugby league. That's just unforgivable, and I'm not buying this honest mistake crap. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he should not be on a rugby league field for the next... I would like a year ban, to tell you the truth, because that's just such unforgivable play, and it's really just dirty and cheap, and I don't like to see it at all. Raiders losing to the Dragons. I actually tipped that in a different comp, but not with you guys here on YouTube, so I will stay true to the tips that I had last week. The Roosters getting a win at Four Pines Park. Yeah, it's just a bit lackluster from Manly, and I thought the Roosters definitely were looking poised to win that game from the outset. And the Tigers, guys, tipping the Tigers to beat the Dogs. I know a friend who put a lot of money on the Dogs and was extremely disappointed after the game. So for me, I tried not to celebrate too much, but God, what a tip that was. And the Sharks getting a massive win over the Cowboys, but the 6 out of 8 tips correct is one that we will take, guys. I know a lot of people got 5 out of 8. 6 out of 8 was definitely a pretty good week this week. I got 7 out of 8 in another comp. As I said, I did tip the Dragons in a different comp, but guys, if you went with me, you had a pretty good week overall, but let's see what round 23 has in store. All right, guys, this is round 23, and we start off hot down at Amy Park, where the Storm will be taking on the Brisbane Broncos. Now, this is a clash of teams that are striving for very different things. The Storm trying to stay in that premiership race, that minor premiership race. They've just gotten into second position on for and against, and they are 2 points away from the Raiders at this point in time. And the Broncos, they want fourth position. They are hunting for that top 4 spot, and a 60-point drubbing of the Rabbitohs last week is a big statement, no matter who you play. 60 points against any team is definitely tough. So I am salivating for this game. It is going to be a mouth-watering display of footballing splendor. to put it lightly. A few outs for the teams. We do have Jarom Hughes still out. We have Xavier Willison going down last week with a broken arm. Now, I actually think that is going to be an underrated loss for the Broncos, as he has been killing it the last 8 to 10 weeks, especially during the Origin period. While Payne Haas was out, Xavier Willison was carrying them through a fair few games there, whether it be at second row or prop. We have Nelson coming back for this game. Whether that makes a big difference, I think in terms of size in the Storm forward pack, I think it definitely makes a difference. I really like the Broncos though in this game, and it wasn't too much of a stretch to say that they could have beaten the Storm down in Melbourne last year. It was a very high scoring game, 34-32, and I think the Storm really let one slip like almost last year. And if they do that again, I really I really can't really find an answer for the Storm to be able to contain this Broncos attack. Like if it's humming, it should work really well, and the Storm are really going to have not many answers for them, especially with Hughes out of the team. If the Broncos don't get it exactly right and it turns into a bit of a grit fest, although to be fair, the Storm haven't really liked playing at night in this season. I'm going to back the outsiders here. I think the Broncos get a victory. They need to go down to Amy Park, get a win, continue to make statements, continue to show that they are a genuine premiership threat. And I think the Storm are a little undermanned, a little out of form at this point in time as well. They nearly lost to the Eels last week, let's be honest, but the Eels also did beat the Broncos. So anything could happen. Let's go the Broncos, 1-12. We go to Friday night's games, and we're back up at the Hunter, where the Knights will be taking on the Penrith Panthers. And the Panthers definitely got away with one last week. They were cruising at 24-0, let's be completely honest. And this Titans team, man, they didn't want to give up. They've got a lot to play for. Des has a lot to coach for at this point in time. They want to avoid the spoon. They don't want their new coach basically getting tossed out after 1 year at the club. I think it's a little bit of a showing from Penrith that they really aren't all there together quite yet. A lot of young guys having to step up, play big roles. Casey McLean, especially on the game-winning play, Casey McLean giving it to Blaze Taulagi, that just shows you how far Penrith have had to come this season. And some of their guys who probably weren't even in the starting team this year, or Casey McLean probably was, but he was definitely out of favour after a few games, could not really get his defence right, and wasn't also throwing the ball to his inside man or outside man on game-winning plays like that. You can definitely cast your minds back to the Cowboys game earlier in the year where he didn't pass to Tom Jenkins and it ended up costing them the game. Didn't do so on this occasion against the Titans, however. And let's talk about the Knights. I mean, they're coming off the bye. They should be well rested. Not really too much to say about them other than they're probably going to lose this game, right? I think what Penrith will do this week is they will go back to training. They will have learned from we got a bit of a scare last week. Let's not maybe switch off, or we can't afford to switch off with half an hour to go, 45 minutes to go. It's not how games of football are won. Just get up by 24 and shut the gate. Not in this generation anyway. So let's go the Panthers in this one pretty handedly, 13 plus. Unfortunately for Knights fans, I just think it's going to be a pretty average end to the season, but I think the Knights will hand it to them. Their defense isn't too bad, but they just can't score the amount of points that Penrith are going to put up. Let's go the Panthers, 13 plus. The second Friday night game is down in the nation's capital, where the Raiders will be taking on the Manly Seagulls. Now, the Seagulls have a pretty good record in Canberra over the past couple of games. They've actually put up 40-plus points in their last two fixtures at GIO Stadium, winning both of those games quite handedly. And you've got to say the Raiders fell off the ball a little bit. They let one slip against the Dragons. Look, to be honest, I think everyone kind of knew that loss was coming at some point. They had won 9 in a row. They were looking a bit dodgy over the last month or so, and that's why I tipped them against them in another comp. I just thought that they were due for a loss. It's really the only thing that I thought about. I think what they will do, though, is take that loss in, be like, okay, that's what it is like to lose games. We can't afford to do that heading down the stretch of the season or heading into this final series where they're probably going to end up as the minor premiers. And I don't want to see them, losing 2 games and straight out of the finals in an embarrassing way. Like, I don't want to see that. I do think that they might struggle against the team who finishes 4th, no matter who it's going to be. It's going to be a nightmare matchup if it's the Panthers. Like, that's going to suck for the Raiders, who are such this fun, effervescent team. And last week they were pretty demure. I don't think they liked the rain as well. That didn't help. But back at home against a Manly team that really is under threat right now. They don't have a lot going for them. I thought Manly have been a bit dodgy. Outside the Storm win, Manly have been a bit dodgy this last month. And yeah, I just think that the loss by a big margin was coming on the weekend. They really couldn't get their attack going. I thought the Roosters, again, aren't the best defensive team, but Manly really didn't have it in attack. They switched Tom Trbojevic to the fullback role as well to see how that would play out. Didn't love that move either. Um, yeah, I just think the Raiders win this one pretty handily. Let's go the Raiders, 1-12. First Saturday game of round 23 is out at Cogra, where we have the Dragons taking on the Sharks. And the Dragons, I thought, were pretty inspiring last week. They came up against the team that is currently coming first, and they grinded out a victory at home at Wynn Stadium, a place where they are, pretty prominent winners. And I think I probably should have backed it in more comps. As I said, only did it in the one, but just could really see that coming, especially with the rain. I feel like it kind of helped the Dragons out a little bit. As for the Sharks, we saw the great play from the Sharks. They've got some great attack, and they just put the Q in the rack, and they were actually outscored in the second half, and that's not what I want to see from the Sharks. I think this Sharks side are the biggest pretenders in the competition right now. I think aside from the Broncos, I think the Broncos are maybe one statement win away. I would say if they beat the Storm this week, I know the Storm won't have Hughes, but if the Broncos were to beat the Storm this week, I would say that that is a statement victory, and I would consider them, a premiership threat, genuine premiership threat. Meanwhile, the Sharks are on this 4-game winning streak that they're kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but their wins are against the Dolphins. I mean, beating the Cowboys is no mean feat. We're terrible, and we outscored them in the second half. So, like, I just don't love this Shark side this year. That I picked them to win the comp at the start of the year, and they've been nothing but just lackluster. I don't love watching them play. I think that Rabbitohs game really put some bad tastes in my mouth because it was just so poor. And you want to see this team that have got so much talent on paper play well, and they just aren't doing that. However, that being said, I do think they go out there and beat the Dragons. The Dragons got their win last week. They will now return to regular form, and that regular form lands them in front of the Sharks, who have a pretty good record against them. So let's go the Sharks, 13 plus. Second Saturday game is at Suncorp Stadium, where the Dolphins will be taking on the Roosters. Now, I would love to pick the Dolphins in this game, to tell you the truth. I really think that they deserve to be in the 8 this year. I feel like they have been one of the top 8 teams of the season, aside from the first 5 or so rounds. But the injuries are really piling up at this point in time. To have a hamstring injury to easily your best player, I know Isaiah Katoa has been brilliant this year, but Herbie Farnworth is the heart and soul of the Dolphins. Like, he is easily their best player. I think maybe Gilbert's the heart, but he is the big slashing blade that comes in and just wipes the floor with you. And to see him go down last week was pretty tough. And they come up against a Roosters side that really looked poised to poach this 8th spot away from them. I love this. It's 8th versus 9th, and the Roosters get one step closer to making the 8 if they win. Man, it's you couldn't write this, you couldn't script this. And some of these fixtures this week are phenomenal stuff. We got 3rd versus 4th as well coming up after this game. But yeah, I think the Roosters just win this game. Unfortunately for Dolphins fans, I just don't see how you hang on. Like last week, you probably shouldn't have won that game. Like, let's be honest, you shouldn't have won, but you did, and there was a lot of heart involved in that game. But let's be honest, the Warriors have not been in good form the last few weeks, and this Rooster side are coming off, a pretty nice defensive effort. So let's go the Roosters, 1-12. Next up, it's the Doggies taking on the Warriors, and don't these two teams need a bounce back week after last week? Really interesting for me how 3 out of the top 4 teams that we have in this competition right now had losses, and one of them only won by 6 points. It just goes to show how open this year's competition is. But for the Doggies in this one, I think they get a win against this Warriors side, who have been dragging themselves through the last month of football since Luke Metcalf got injured. Tanner Boyd is doing his best at this point in time, but the attack has stalled a little bit, and the defensive efforts or heart is there. It definitely is, but they are running on fumes at the moment. Some of these young guys haven't played a full season of NRL before, and it's definitely wearing on them. Guys like Lika Halasima, guys like Jacob Laban, Dietrich Valmunga, like they haven't played like this amount of football before, and No doubt they'll be better for the experience next season, but it's just not going to happen this year. And I really feel like the Warriors are going to fall out of the top four and potentially finish fifth and then end up playing the Roosters, which would be a tough matchup for them. Guys, let me know your top eight predictions heading this far out from the final series. I might do a little video during the week on what my expected top eight finish will be. But as far as this game goes, I just think the Dogs bounce back in this one. They really didn't get it right last week, and especially if the weather is fine on Saturday, then I expect the Dogs to get a victory. But if it's raining just that little bit, I will give the edge to the Warriors because they play in that kind of weather all the time. And the Doggies have really struggled in it this year. But for the moment, let's go the Dogs. 1 to 12. Our first Sunday game could potentially be this year's Spoon Bowl with the Titans taking on the Rabbitohs. Now, the Rabbitohs, they get a few players back this week. Humphreys, Mummazellis, Brandon Smith should also be available. Latrell, we're not too sure if he's going to come back for this game. So does that give them a little bit of an edge? They also have not lost to the Titans since 2016. They are killing it as far as beating the Titans is concerned. They've got that one covered. So will they be able to go out there and do it again this week? They are the massive outsiders. I think they can do it. I just think that last week's loss was absolutely shattering for the Titans. Like, how do you come back from that? How do you think, wow, okay, nothing's really going our way this year. May as well just pack it in. It's got to take an emotional toll. And playing a bit of Golden Point also doesn't help. And when you're, the Rabbitohs who got hammered last week, you haven't spent too much energy. Let's be honest, because they didn't really stick to any tackles and they didn't really play much football. I think the Rabbitohs can do it this week. Like, call me crazy again, guys. Picked the Tigers last week. Maybe it's going to my head just a little bit, and I'll fully admit that. But I think the Rabbitohs can definitely get a win this week. I know I've backed them a lot. I've backed them a lot this year to bounce back, to snap out of form. I just don't see them as this bottom of the table side. Basically, if they lose this game, it is cementing their wooden spoon because the Eels are probably going to get a win, and we'll get into that in just a moment. And the Tigers have the bye this week as well. God, if the Titans beat the Rabbitohs, then it's pretty much going to be a Rabbitohs spoon. That's why there's this game so much riding on it. I would love the Spoon Bowl to be kept alive. That's why I'm banking on a Rabbitohs victory. Come on, Rabbitohs. You can do it. 1 to 12. The last game of round 23 is the Parramatta Eels taking on the North Queensland Cowboys at Conbank Stadium, a game that I will probably get dragged to by Longy, who is our other co-host here on the channel. As you know, Longy is a massive Eels fan, and the Eels have suddenly hit a bit of form at the moment. They look all right, and the Cowboys, well, they are pure garbage at this point in time. That's not really a hot take anymore. I just worry about the future of our club at this stage. I think we're trying to win games now when we should really fully commit to a rebuild. Like, we should get rid of our old players that aren't doing the club any favors by hanging around on these decent salaries, and we need to free up some cash. Get these guys in. I hardly saw any of Anali Bittengani the other night. Like, I think he played like less than 23 minutes or less than 25 minutes. Jamal Shibasaki looked good, actually, when he came in. I don't know why he has been sitting on the bench for 23 rounds. It's his first taste of NRL this year. Like, what are we doing? Like, it just seems really stupid. Like, Jamal Shibasaki played first grade 2 years ago, and like now it's at the point where you're not playing him to the point where he might want to consider going to another club because he's not getting game time. And he looked good on the weekend. Like, he looked big, strong. He's always been fast. Like, I don't understand like what we're doing as a club. Whereas complete opposite side of the ball with Parramatta, they know what they're about. They know where they're going. They have made decisions this year that will impact the team for not just this year, but the next 3 to 5 years. It's not about winning the comp this year for them. It's about building for 2026 and beyond. And that's what I love about the attitude of Parramatta. And because they are so sure in their attitude, they're sure in the way that they're playing football. And you've seen that in full view the last month or so. And I think they get a win here against the Cowboys. I think it could be potentially embarrassing. The Cowboys don't play or haven't played that well away from home, especially last week. So that could continue. But we always give up points anyway. So what does it matter? Let's go to Eels, 13 plus. All right, guys, those are my tips for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your tips down in the comment section below. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week, and we love the support that we get from you guys. So thank you so, so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.